Are you ready to become awesomer? Hello everyone, my name is Umar. I'm your host on the No Limit Selling podcast, where industry leaders share their tips, strategy, and advice on how you can become better, stronger, faster. Just before we get started, I've got a question for you. Do you have a negative voice inside your head? We all do, right? I'm going to help you remove that voice in under 30 days guaranteed. Not only remove it, but transform it. So instead of the voice that sabotages you, there's one that propels you to much higher levels of performance and success. There's a link in the show notes. Click on it to find out more. All right, let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the No Limit Selling podcast. And if you're watching video today, I'm actually standing because I'm at an Airbnb in Baltimore, Maryland. Came here to see some clients. But with the magic of the internet, we have the privilege of having Maxime here. He is a broker in Montreal, Canada. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Umar.
So what do you love about real estate?
What do I love about real estate? I love the art of negotiation. I love the aspect of showing a home and, getting rid of someone's, very important asset. Those are two things that really got me into real estate, and the actual construction of the buildings and the homes. So I have about 6 years of experience in construction.
Nice.
So that's where I built my passion in the business.
Brilliant. There's probably like three different groups. One would be realtors just starting out. How do we get them to get to a plateau where they're like, oh my God, this is a career and I can make a living here and I can get better at this. The second group would be team leaders because it's a different animal leading a group of realtors. Some say it's like leading cats. But and the third one is very much just anyone in the industry that's been there for a while, has reached a certain level of success, and they've plateaued. And how do we get them to break free and get to the next level of excellence and productivity? So let's talk about, you're about to respond to that, Maxime.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, there is exactly different types of realtors. Well, to break plateaus, you got to grow your team, right? You got to make sure to be able to handle the amount of workload that you take in with the amount of people that you have. So when I first started, I wasn't on my own. I didn't have my own team. I started off in a team, right? So I worked for the number one.
Good place to start.
Yeah, exactly. Number one broker in Quebec for about 4 years. And then I broke out onto my own and built my own team afterwards. So that's how I broke my plateau.
What's kind of interesting is great leaders are the ones that actually want to incubate out people underneath them. Mm-hmm. Like when you grow up and leave and are doing interesting things, for great leaders, that's like a success. It's like, all right, I groomed another successful realtor that's starting his own team or her team. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about new realtors coming in. One of the bedrock things to do is prospecting.
Yep.
And so where do people struggle most with prospecting? Because, they're talking to strangers or feel self-conscious. So walk me through kind of what you see as some of the problem areas in doing that activity, because that's, at the heart of the business.
Well, prospecting is something that I still do today, right? Even though my business is very successful and we do have a pretty heavy volume of transactions every year, I still prospect every single day, right? So I get on the phones, my brokers get on the phones, and the most common feedback in terms of prospecting is, the biggest pushback is the actual, want to do it. People don't necessarily feel comfortable cold calling someone because of the fear of their response. However, I don't see how it's possible if you don't have the drive, right? If you don't break that kind of barrier where you're not going to feel like you're bothering someone, and you treat the conversation like, like any other conversation you would have in real life, then people see and sense that sense of, personality and sense of, comfort through the phone, right? So once you break that barrier, then you'll be able to have success in the prospecting calls.
All right, so let's take a look at, I'm going to put you on the spot here, Maxime, and I'll help out if we need to, is what are 5 ways to break out of that state of fear and actually start executing? So what's one thing you can do? Yeah.
Well, one thing we can really do is know your stats, know your area, know the recent sales in the area. That's one key aspect, to make people feel comfortable and to make people feel that you know what you're talking about. And you have to bring a sense of value to the conversation, right? So you have to know if the neighbor sold and how much they sold for, or two streets down, how much they sold for. And that actually gives you an in into the conversation, and then after that, you can build from that information.
Yeah, it's almost like having a university degree that lets you get a job, but to keep it, you need to add value. And this, just knowing the stats in the neighborhood, gives you the ability to quote unquote get the job, but then it's your personality and your work ethic that gets you going there. So number one, know your stats. What's number two?
Number two is, I'd say, more a sense of a personal level. Yeah, getting into a conversation and not a business call, right? So people can sense that, asking about something about their home, or getting a little bit more personal, so that they can build a sense of relationship with the person across the phone.
So, Maxine, tell me, we're going to go to number three in a minute, so don't lose track of that. Have you ever had a call from someone that's a stranger and just the warmth of their voice and the familiarity with you, you're like, do I know this person? Like you
Yeah.
just feel this connection. And I think that's one thing that people should strive to do. So don't just, I was working with this company, helping them with their outbound calling.
Hmm.
And I was noticing one of their sales reps, when they were actually calling, there was a tightness in their voice and a speed of delivery was a little too fast. So I said, okay. So I recorded their end of the conversation. Then I said, do me a favor. Who's your best friend? They go, oh, John's my best friend. I said, where's John right now? At home. Called John up and invite him to the movies this weekend and recorded that call. And that was like warm, slower pace of delivery, just a totally different feel to it. And then let them hear the both recordings. This is what you sound like on a cold call. This is what you sound like on a friend. And that contrast between the two was enough for them to go, oh, that's what you're talking about. And the next call they made to a client, had warmth in it. They were slowing down in what they were saying, and they were making more connections. So yeah, how you connect on the phone is important. What's number three?
Number three for successful prospecting, I'd say the follow up. The relationship that you build with the person, and how much you're going to follow up afterwards. That's what's going to get you the business, right? That initial phone call is important, yes, but how you follow up with that person is even more important, right? So you're never going to get the lead on the first call.
Maxine, you don't understand. I don't want to bother them. They might think I'm like greedy or pushy, and that's the stuff we tell ourselves.
Mhm.
I was at working with this real estate team, and one of the guys who's their number one sales guy had got this listing, and the team leader said, "Well, how many texts did you send this person?" He said it was the 21st text.
Hmm.
And he didn't remember any of the others. It was just he was in the mode to basically list that thing when that text came in, and he was so grateful it came in. Because you know
Mhm.
what would happen if his text wouldn't have come in that day? He would have gone with someone else. And all
That's
the
right.
other 20 texts before, he had forgotten. So, dear listeners and viewers, you can't be too persistent. And it all comes down from intent. If your intent is to serve, it comes across. If the intent is, I have to have this deal, that also comes across and scares people. So, what is number four, I guess?
I'd say it has a direct relation with number three, but keep a solid database so that you can be organized in your follow up, right? So if you call the person and keep notes on what you said in every conversation, so that you know where to take off if that conversation only happens again, a couple of months down the line, then that would be a very key factor in securing that business.
Brilliant. And do you have any others to add to this list?
I think that pretty much rounds it up. I mean, if
I'll add one to it. Get a process that you're using. If you
Mhm.
don't have a process, you can steal it from a team leader or another realtor. They'll be more than happy to show it to you. And it's going to be pretty good. But it can get better. And you can't improve what you're doing unless you have a process and you're following it consistently. Then you can
Mhm.
go to your team leader or a trainer and say it's not working out. And they'll say, oh, you need to tweak this second step, tweak it this way. And all of a sudden you start getting dramatically better results. So get a process that's going to help you out dramatically. And adding one more to that to push me, very much set your intentions for the call before you get on the call.
Mhm.
Like this call, I'm going to be of service. I'm going to connect. I'm going to add value to this person. And they're going to be glad that they picked up the phone. And just having that mindset before you get on the call changes your demeanor throughout. So that's one area is call reluctance. Where is another place realtors, especially new ones, kind of hold themselves back and don't do as well as they should?
Door knocking. That's to me is the most efficient way to do it, right? Because you have the personal contact. That is something I did a lot at the beginning of my career, and it still serves me till today.
So give us some piece of how to do door knocking, how to start that conversation. How would you recommend people do that?
You first of all you build your marketing material to advertise yourself,
Hmm.
and you just go into your target area, because I don't suggest that anybody just goes for a global whole city and try to go
Makes no
door knock
sense.
everywhere.
Yeah.
You got to target an area where you're going to be door knocking. You got to have some sort of a mapping system where you keep track of doors that you've knocked at. And then after that, you get on the road and you park your car and you go door to door, and you get a sense of people and what they want to do. And it's the same thing as getting on the phone, but you're getting that personal contact, which is getting you a little bit of a step ahead.
Absolutely. And having a reason to knock the door other than, hi, I'm a realtor, I'm hungry, and I want to make a sale. But it's
Mhm.
like, hey, did you know this house sold? Did you know your values are going up? And just that kind of information. People go, oh, I had no idea. Really? What's going on? So I love that. Door knocking. What would be another area that people struggle in?
Well, people struggling, or another advice on how to prospect?
Prospecting. So
Okay.
we've got calling, we got door knocking. What else do we have?
The most success that I've had with this type of prospecting was center of influence. Calling your center of influence to me is the my bread and butter. It's really what I do. I go through my contact list every now and then, and I just go through every single contact that I have. And if it's a past client, I give him stats on what his home is evaluated at since he bought it, how the market's doing. You provide them with a little bit of sense of a personal touch, right? You'll say how's it going, how's the wife, how's the kids, and on the other end, you give him a little bit of value in terms of what's going on in the real estate market today.
Yeah, I think always adding value, having that person hang up the phone and that evening talking to their missus saying, oh, Maxim called. And did you know my
Mhm.
house has gone up 20%? Or did you know that this major retailer is moving into our neighborhood? And yeah, if you can do that, it makes perfect sense.
And
So
then also,
sphere of influence.
adding in, do you know anybody that's gonna, wants to sell their home, or anybody wants to buy? Adding that question in at the end could always, help you get that little extra business if ever they do. Or let's say they had a conversation with someone a week ago that they wanted to sell or they were looking to buy. Then it'll click with them, and they'll give you that referral right away.
So let's kind of move over to your team leader. You've had a team for a while, and you've probably done some amazing things, and you've probably had some missteps. Like,
Mhm.
what was one of the missteps you made that you learned from and said, okay, this is how I become a better leader?
Well, that's a good question. Um, well, building the system wasn't easy, and getting good staff. Those were my biggest things. Growing my team, finding good people, finding good admin, and finding good brokers wasn't easy. But I believe now I have a set of really strong people in my team, which is helping me, really boost up my business.
So if you're giving advice to, realtors that reach a certain level of performance and they decide, okay, I need to actually build a team,
Mhm.
what would be 5 pieces of advice you'd give new team leaders that they should know before they start building a team?
Manage your costs would be number one.
So give me talk more about that.
Well, I mean, you have to look at if it's going to be worth it for you. If you have enough business to feed your potential brokers, to pay your secretary, to pay your cold caller. So keep your numbers straight. Make sure that you're not going to be turning into the negative. If ever you're paying a salary to a broker, if he's all in commission, these are all little things that you need to take into consideration when you start building your team.
When you can afford it. So that's number one, affordability. What's number two?
Having a good structure in the office, right? Good division of tasks, so that your team can be organized and people know what they're doing, so you avoid chaos and clutter.
Love that. Number three.
Providing a motivating environment, a nice office where people could interact with each other, and keeping it's such a high paced business, right? So you want to be all on the same page. So having a system where everybody's on the same page, having an office where you keep your all your data, your records, having a board with all the properties and the accepted offers on it, so that you could all be on the same page and you avoid mistakes.
Love that. Number four.
Number four. That's a good question.
So I'll toss number four out.
Yeah, go
So
ahead, number
number
four.
four. So really checking in with each individual team member because everyone's a unique person,
Mhm.
and just really looking at each week what went well, what didn't go well, and especially on those calls that people make. I always get people to record a great call and one that didn't go well. And that way it allows the leader to kind of give them direct feedback. Oh, that was brilliant. We don't do that right now. We're going to actually make that part of our process so the entire team learns. And ones that went south, sometimes it's hard to see yourself. But when you have
Mhm.
your team leader listen to the thing and say, oh, you did a good job here, but this is where it went south. I would have handled this differently. And that kind of direct feedback really helps in getting your agents to volunteer the good call and the bad call, saves you from wasting 500 hours trying to find something to give them feedback on, and that way it allows them to accelerate and be better faster.
Mhm. 100%. And if I could add to that, also listening to your staff as well, listening to, getting their input, making them feel included, and just having a dynamic where, we all help each other, right? I could be a team leader, right? But I'm nothing without the team.
Absolutely. We'll make that number 5 so we don't make you sweat today. So thanks for being a good sport and heavy lifting. So here's my thoughts on what you need to do to make a great team. You need people to trust in the leader.
Hmm.
They need to trust in each other. They need to trust in the processes that are built. And then there needs to be one hell of a kick ass, amazing vision that people go, you know what? That's worth fighting for. And the job for the leader very much is threefold. Number one, kick ass, amazing vision. Two, building a culture. And that's what we talked around. How do we get a place where people want to go above and beyond the duty, where they want to help each other? It's not about them and their ego, it's about how do we win? And the third thing is how do you grow the overall value of the thing that you're building? And I think just doing that stuff is critically important. And if you get a great team, the whole is much greater than the sum of the parts.
Hmm.
But unfortunately, most teams, the sum of the parts are greater than the whole because something happens when people come together. There's like office politics and egos and all that kind of stuff that gets in the way of leaders being able to lead effectively.
I agree.
So, the version of you that was there 4 years ago, Maxim, was probably sucks compared to the person sitting in front of me right now talking. That you've gotten better and smarter and more efficient. So, there's a better version of you out there in the future. Let's say 2 years in the future. So, what are you working on right now to step into that? That more amazing version of you 2 years from now. What are you reading? What are you studying? What are you working on? That's allowing you to get better and stronger and faster.
Well, I'm always looking at ways to improve the business, right? So it could be different divisions of the business. Right now, we're working on our commercial side of it. We just hired
Nice.
a really 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 good broker that's going to be bringing in some good numbers in terms of the commercial side. I focus on residential, but that's what we're developing into right now. So that's something that we're looking forward to in the next couple of months. Besides that, I'm always looking to grow my team, but in terms of brokers, I think we hit a plateau. I don't want a huge team. I think
Hmm.
that's just redundant and it's not effective. So, working the commercial side of things, we're always building new systems to try to be more efficient in organization. As the business grows, we got to keep up with it. So those little small little tools that we're putting, at our clients' disposals and at our disposal, are key things to help us grow the business in the future.
Nice. Maxim, what brings you joy in your work?
Pardon me.
What brings you joy in your work?
What brings me joy in my work? I mean, I love the job in terms of the day to day, right? Communicating with clients,
Hmm.
having my team, right? This is my kind of my baby that I built in the last couple of years, and I'm actually enjoying and seeing it grow. And there's the whole client aspect too, right? You build amazing relationships with people. You help them sell a very important asset of theirs, probably some of them, the most important asset they own,
Right.
and it's just that process, right? Taking them from A to Z, which to me is very fulfilling.
Brilliant. What's one mind hack, a technique you use to be more effective, more productive, happier? What's something you'd like to share with listeners and viewers?
What comes out on the top of my head, I'd say, don't care what people think. A lot of people out there, there's a lot of competition. A lot of people will try to, you know, talk bad about you, or they'll just, have negative comments about your success. My question is just, my advice is just put your head down, keep working, work hard, and, don't listen to all that white noise that's around.
Ah, love it. Is there a question I should have asked you that I did not?
Off the top of my head, no, I don't. I don't see anything else.
All right. Thanks so much for coming on the show, and thanks for the heavy lifting because you weren't prepared for any of these things. We don't share that, and as I come on, it's like, tell me 5 ways to do this, and tell me 5 ways to do that. It's like, holy crap, what's going on here? But
Yeah.
appreciate the expertise and the wisdom, and I really enjoyed our conversation. Thanks so much
Likewise,
for being on
Umar.
the show.
Thank you for having me.
If you enjoyed this episode, please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. And if you're looking for more tools, go to my website at nolimitselling.com. I've got a free mind training course there that's going to teach you some insights from the world of neuro-linguistic programming, and that is the fastest way to get better results.